It's a Saturday afternoon in late June, and I'm standing in Marcus's backyard on Culver Street, holding a cup of sweet tea, watching somebody's dad argue about the Cowboys. And I feel like the luckiest man alive. Not because anything spectacular is happening. It's just a cookout. Burgers on a Weber grill, a kiddie pool nobody's using, a Bluetooth speaker playing something nobody asked for. But I'm looking around at all these familiar faces, and I feel this quiet, warm pride settling in my chest. These are my people. I've always been the connector, the guy who texts first, who remembers your kids' basketball tryouts, who shows up to help you move furniture on a Tuesday. My mom called it a gift. My dad had a simpler way of framing it. He'd look at me across the dinner table and say, "Caleb, a man who keeps showing up wins." I believed that like it was written somewhere important. So when Marcus, my best friend since 7th grade, started going quiet on me, I did exactly what my dad taught me. I kept showing up. Marcus and I had grown up 3 blocks apart in Millhaven. We'd done everything side by side. High school, his first job at the lumber yard, my first apartment. I was the best man at his wedding. He was standing in the hallway when my daughter was born. I was absolutely convinced we were the kind of friends who'd still be giving each other a hard time from rocking chairs at 80 years old. So when he stopped returning my calls, first 1 day, then 3, then a full week, I told myself life had just gotten busy. I texted him a funny video. No response. I stopped by his house on a Thursday evening with a 6-pack of that pale ale he likes, the one from the craft brewery over on Fletcher Road. His truck was in the driveway. Nobody answered the door. My plan was to stay consistent, be patient, be the kind of friend I'd always been. That's what loyalty looks like, I reminded myself. Keep showing up. That's how a good man operates. So I kept calling. I left a voicemail I spent 20 minutes practicing in the Walmart parking lot. Not needy, not dramatic, just checking in, breezy as a Tuesday. He never called back. I sent a birthday message in April. He left it on read. But I wasn't ready to let go. I had too much history invested. I figured I just needed to try a little harder, be a little more patient, find the right angle. Then Devin called. Devin was a mutual friend, easygoing guy, and he invited me to a low-key get-together at Harley's Bar out on Route 9. Long wooden building, always smells like fried catfish and somebody's grandfather's jukebox. I got there around 8, grabbed a spot at the bar, and ordered a Coke. I wasn't fully paying attention when I heard Marcus's voice carrying from one of the back booths. I stood up halfway and started to wave. But then I heard what he was saying. Caleb just doesn't read the room. I've pulled back like 100 different ways, and he just keeps coming. Honestly, it's exhausting. I don't know how to be more clear without just being mean about it. Somebody in the booth laughed. The easy laugh of people agreeing with something they've heard more than once. I sat back down on that bar stool like somebody had quietly deflated everything in me. The bartender said something, and I nodded at her. I have no idea what she asked. I walked outside to the gravel parking lot. August heat hit me like a wall. I stood under a buzzing fluorescent light between 2 pickup trucks, and I just stood there, staring at the gravel. And something shifted. Not a lightning bolt, not some dramatic moment of clarity, just a slow, uncomfortable truth that worked its way up through my chest and stopped right behind my eyes. I had spent 4 months running toward a man who was running away. I had rehearsed voicemails in parking lots. I had stood on his front porch in the heat with beer he liked. I had convinced myself that refusing to let go was a virtue, that this was what loyalty looked like, that keeping at it was the mark of a good man. But standing in that gravel lot, the thought that came up wasn't about Marcus at all. It was about my daughter's birthday party in May. She'd turned 6, and I'd spent most of that afternoon distracted, glancing at my phone, wondering if Marcus would show, half present for the whole thing. I missed her face when she blew out the candles. I caught it on video a week later, watching it back on my phone at 11 o'clock at night. I wasn't losing Marcus. I'd been losing myself. I thought about what my dad always said. A man who keeps showing up wins. I had carried that line my entire life and applied it everywhere, at work, in friendships, in everything. But sitting with it now, I realized my dad had never specified something important. He never told me what to do when the place you keep showing up to doesn't want you there. I drove home that night and sat in my parked car in the driveway for a long time before I went inside. The weeks after that were quieter than I expected. I stopped texting Marcus. I stopped inventing reasons to drive down his street. No final conversation, no dramatic confrontation, just a quiet decision to stop. And in that silence, I started noticing things I'd been too busy to see. A guy at work named Pete. Quiet, kept to himself. I'd always assumed he was just unfriendly. Turned out to be one of the most genuinely funny people I'd ever spent time with. My neighbor Gary, a retired electrician in his mid-60s who was always waving from his open garage, started inviting me over on Saturday mornings. He was restoring a 1968 Chevelle, and he needed an extra set of hands. I hadn't worked with my hands like that in years. We'd spend 3 hours in comfortable silence with the radio on, passing tools back and forth, talking about nothing important, and somehow everything real. Neither of those people had chased me down. They'd just always been nearby. And for the first time in a long while, I was present enough to notice them. One evening in early October, I was sitting on my back porch watching my daughter draw with sidewalk chalk in the last stretch of daylight before dinner. She called me over and showed me what she'd made. 2 stick figures standing side by side, one tall and one short, both with enormous round heads and stick arms pointing straight out to the sides. "That's you and me, Daddy," she said. Then she turned back around and kept drawing, like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. I went back to my chair. I sat there for a long time. I thought about my dad's words one more time. A man who keeps showing up wins. He was right. He just never told me who I was supposed to be showing up for. There are people who will pull away no matter how kind you are, no matter how many Thursdays you show up at their door, no matter how many voicemails you practice in parking lots. And the instinct to chase, to try one more time, to send one more message, to earn what should be freely given, that instinct isn't weak. It comes from love. It really does. But there is a version of love that costs you everything and returns nothing. And at some point, the kindness you keep extending to people who are already walking out the door stops being kindness at all. It just becomes the quiet loss of yourself. The right people don't need you to dissolve to keep them close. They just stay. And the moment you stop emptying yourself for the ones who were never planning to stay, that's when you finally have something left to give to the ones standing right in front of you. Chalk-stained hands and all.
If this story lit something up in you, even just a quiet flicker, share it with someone whose light has gone a little dim. Subscribe to this channel and come back in a couple of days. There are more stories where this one came from.